Father's Day and my birthday always fell on the same weekend, and for the last 15 years, we'd had a tradition. Homemade waffles in the morning, goofy handmade cards from the girls, and usually a little backyard grilling with music. That was just what we did. But this year, I woke up to silence. No smell of breakfast. No little footsteps or whispered giggles outside the bedroom door. Just the hum of the ceiling fan and the faint sound of the shower running down the hall. I sat up slowly, glancing at the time, 8:15. Megan was already up, apparently, and the girls? I assumed they were watching cartoons or arguing over the last Eggo. I rubbed my eyes, waiting for the usual shout, "Happy birthday, Daddy," but it never came. When I came downstairs, Megan was packing a cooler. "Oh, morning," she said casually, not even looking up. "Didn't want to wake you. Girls are getting dressed." "Morning," I replied, waiting for something. Anything. A kiss. A card. A happy birthday even in passing. Nothing. She zipped the cooler and finally turned toward me. "Oh, by the way, can you check the sunscreen in the garage? I don't want it to be expired." Sunscreen. That's when I remembered. The beach. Her sister had been planning a girls' weekend at Lake Michigan, and apparently it had landed square on today. I had nodded when Megan told me about it a couple weeks back. I just hadn't put it together that it was today. I stood there for a second, feeling like a fool. "Wait," I said. "You're all going today?" She blinked. "Yeah, I told you. It's in the shared calendar. It's Father's Day. And my birthday." She froze for a half beat. "Oh my God," she said. "Right. Well, I'm sorry. I completely blanked." Blanked. The girls came down a moment later, chattering about floaties and snacks, completely oblivious. Megan gave me a quick peck on the cheek, like someone saying goodbye to a neighbor. And then they left. Just like that. I stood there at the door, holding the bottle of expired sunscreen, watching their car back out of the driveway. I didn't know what to do with myself. I wandered downtown and ended up in a tiny cafe I used to visit before the kids were born. Had a lukewarm breakfast sandwich and watched other families pass by with wrapped gifts and cards. Then I found myself at a cigar lounge near the corner of 7th. Figured if I wasn't going to be celebrated, I could at least buy myself a drink and a couple hours of peace. That's where I met them. A couple of middle-aged guys talking about golf and infidelity like it was weather. One of them leaned over to me and said, "You alone on Father's Day?" "Damn, that's rough." I told him my wife had taken the girls to the beach. He raised an eyebrow. "And didn't invite you?" I shook my head. The other guy snorted. "Careful, man. I've seen this before. Women don't forget birthdays unless they want to." That hit me harder than I expected. I laughed, half-hearted. "Nah, it's probably just a mistake." He leaned back, sipping his whiskey. "Sure. But if she's dressing nicer, getting cagey, suddenly got beach plans that don't include you." His voice trailed off. That's when the cold hit my chest. I tried to brush it off, but it stuck. Like something I'd known for a while but hadn't said out loud. I thanked them and left before I could cry. I walked the streets for hours, turning the conversation over and over in my mind. By the time I got home, the house was still empty. Not even a voicemail. Just me, and a quiet I didn't ask for. The thing about betrayal is that it never comes all at once. It shows up in pieces, slow enough that you almost convince yourself it's not real. That's how it started with Megan. Little things. Offhand comments. New habits she never used to have. Like the time she started going to yoga again, even though she used to say yoga wasn't her thing. Or how she started dressing just a little sharper. Tighter jeans. Lipstick on random Wednesday nights. I wanted to believe it was nothing. I mean, people evolve, right? But something about the way she looked in the mirror before leaving. It wasn't the kind of checking you do when you're headed to Downward Dog. There was one Friday night that stuck in my mind. I came home from work around 6, beat from back-to-back inventory issues, and she was already dressed, black boots, low-cut blouse, makeup just right. Our daughters were watching a movie in the living room, popcorn already scattered all over the rug. "Heading out?" I asked, trying not to sound needy. "Yeah," she said, flipping her hair like she was 20 again. "Ashley invited me to that rooftop place over in Valparaiso." "Ashley?" I raised an eyebrow. "Didn't she move to Arizona?" Megan paused. "Oh, no, not that Ashley. Different one. From work." I just nodded. She kissed me on the cheek, light, like I was a cousin or something, and walked out. She didn't get back until past midnight. I heard the garage door creak open and peek through the bedroom blinds. She sat in the car for a long minute, engine off, light still on, like she was rehearsing something. She came in quietly and smelled like vodka and mint gum. I pretended to be asleep. The next morning, she barely looked at me. Said she had a headache. That was it. I should have asked more questions. Should have pushed. But I didn't. I kept pretending things were fine because facing the alternative would have shattered me. So I threw myself into work. That's when I started noticing Claire. She worked at the cafe a few blocks from the store, the one with the cinnamon muffins and mismatched mugs. I'd been going there for years, but lately, I started going more. Not because the coffee got better, but because Claire had a way of looking at you that made you feel seen. She had fiery red hair, usually pulled back, and a little nose ring that sparkled when the light hit right. One morning, she caught me staring at a napkin like it might contain the secrets of the universe. "Bad day?" she asked, pouring my refill without being asked. I chuckled. "More like a bad month." She nodded like she understood exactly what that meant. "Well, whatever it is, coffee's on me." That was the first time someone had done something kind without expecting anything in return. I didn't tell her much. Just that things were complicated at home. But she didn't pry. Just listened. Said sometimes things get messy before they get better. When I left, she smiled and said, "Hang in there, Bill." She remembered my name. And that shouldn't have meant as much as it did. But it did. I drove back to work with her voice still ringing in my ears. Hang in there. And for the first time in weeks, I kind of wanted to. That morning felt like a hangover, even though I hadn't touched a drop. Megan was gone. The girls were gone. The silence in the house was thick and heavy, like fog you couldn't see your way out of. I made coffee, sat at the table, and stared at my phone. No missed calls. No texts. Just silence. I opened Megan's laptop. I knew her password, same one she'd used since we got married. I didn't feel good about it. But I didn't feel guilty either. Not anymore. I searched her emails first. Nothing obvious. No smoking gun. Her inbox was neat, full of forwarded articles and PDA reminders. A few running late messages to coworkers. One from someone named Chris K, asking if she was still up for lunch next week. I clicked it. It was short. Friendly. Harmless, maybe, but something about the way it ended made my stomach twist. Same place as last time? Looking forward to it. Same place as last time. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew how it felt. That gut punch of realizing you're already 2 steps behind in your own life. I closed the laptop and sat back, hands folded over my mouth. Then I did something worse. I opened the drawer in our bedroom, the one where Megan kept receipts, old chargers, random stuff. I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe a hotel keycard. A love note. Proof. But all I found was a crumpled receipt from a restaurant in South Bend, dated 2 weeks ago. Dinner for 2. 2 entrees, wine, dessert. We hadn't gone out in over a month. I held it in my hand and just stared. It wasn't conclusive, but it didn't need to be. A few hours passed. I watched the clock tick past noon, then 1, then 2. My mom called. "Happy birthday, sweetie," she sang. I smiled automatically. "Thanks, Ma." "Where's everyone?" she asked. "I figured you'd be out to lunch or something." I hesitated. "Megan took the girls to the beach," I said. Silence. "She left you alone?" she asked, her voice pinched. "I guess the trip was planned," I said. "I forgot." My mom let out a slow breath. "Bill, I don't want to overstep." I laughed softly. "That's okay, Ma. There's nothing left to step over." She paused. "You want to come by for dinner? I've got a roast in the slow cooker." That offer nearly broke me. "I might," I said. "Let me call you back." Not long after that, my phone rang again. It was Claire's manager from the cafe. "Hi. Is this Bill?" "Yeah. This is Rachel from Little Elm Cafe." I didn't know who else to call. Claire had a fall this morning. Slipped on the back steps. She hit her head. They took her to county. My stomach dropped. "Is she okay?" "She's conscious now," she said. "They think it's a concussion." She was asking for someone named Bill. I didn't think. I just grabbed my keys and left. I drove to the hospital, my heart hammering the whole way. I hadn't realized how much that simple kindness from her meant to me until I thought I might lose it. I didn't see Megan's car in the driveway when I got home that night. I sat in the living room, the dark creeping in around me. My wife was slipping away. My daughters were turning into strangers. And even the one person who'd been kind to me without agenda was lying in a hospital bed. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't losing control. I'd already lost it. It happened 3 days later, after work. I was walking to my car in the back lot of the store, the sky already slipping into that pale orange dusk. I heard voices before I saw them, muffled, low, too close. Then I saw her. Megan, sitting in the passenger seat of a dark blue Honda Civic. The man in the driver's seat was young, too young, maybe late 20s, smug smile, hand resting too comfortably on her knee. They didn't see me at first. She was laughing at something, tilting her head toward him, the way she used to with me years ago. And then she leaned in and kissed him. Not a long kiss, but not an innocent one, either. She froze when she saw me. Her eyes widened. The door cracked open. Bill, wait. But I was already walking past them. She scrambled out of the car, calling after me like I was the one who owed her answers. Bill, please, let me explain it. I didn't stop. I drove straight home. Threw a duffel bag together with the basics: jeans, shirts, toothbrush, charger. The girls' bedrooms were empty. They were still at practice or at a friend's. I didn't even know. And for once, I didn't feel guilty about that. I left Megan a note. Nothing long. You made your choice. I saw enough. Don't try to twist this. I'll talk to the girls when I'm ready. Then I walked out. I checked into a cheap hotel off Route 12, paid in cash. The front desk clerk asked if I needed help with luggage, and I laughed, the kind of tired, bitter laugh you let out when your whole life just collapsed and someone wants to carry your socks. The next morning, I called the girls. I told them the truth. Your mom and I are splitting up, I said. I'll explain more soon, but I want you to know I love you, no matter what happens. There was silence on the line. Then my oldest, Maddie, said quietly, Mom told us you were going through something. That you were just upset about stuff. Upset. My throat tightened. She said you were being dramatic. That you just needed time. Sweetheart, I said carefully, your mom hasn't been honest with me. Were you? Is she cheating? I didn't answer right away. That silence was answer enough. That night, I got a call from Megan's sister. Then her mother. Then her father. All trying to paint me as the bad guy. That I'd walked out. That I was damaging the family. That I needed to be a man and forgive. But I didn't bend. A few days later, Megan sent me an email. It was long, defensive, half confession, half justification. She claimed it had only happened twice, that it didn't mean anything, that she'd felt unseen for so long. But buried in the last paragraph was what I needed. A sentence that changed everything. If I could undo that night with Caleb, I would. That was her mistake. She named him, and she admitted it. I saved the email, printed it, forwarded it to my lawyer. When we filed for divorce, we didn't have hard evidence, but Megan's own words were enough. Enough to give me a moral edge. Enough to push back when her family started spinning their stories. In the weeks that followed, the girls got quieter, more distant. Megan twisted the narrative fast, painted me as unstable, paranoid, controlling. But Claire didn't. She called, just to ask if I'd eaten. Just to ask how I was sleeping. That little kindness? It kept me upright. I'd lost my house, my wife, and for now, my daughters. But I'd finally gained clarity. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't the villain. I was free. Sunday morning felt different. The hotel room was quiet, but not in the hollow way the house had been. I got dressed, tossed on a clean flannel and jeans, and drove to the cafe. Claire's cafe. She smiled when she saw me, just like always. That soft, warm smile that didn't ask questions or make assumptions. Coffee? She asked, already grabbing my usual mug. Only if it comes with company. Her eyes crinkled at the corners. I think I can manage that. We sat in a booth by the window, sunlight pouring in through the glass. She had a tiny notebook with her and kept doodling absent-mindedly, her pen gliding in little loops and shapes. I watched her for a while, sipping my coffee, not saying much. You look better, she said eventually. Do I? She nodded. Less haunted. I chuckled. That's a low bar. She set her pen down. You've been carrying too much for too long. I could see it the first day we talked. I didn't answer right away. I stared out the window at the sidewalk, watching a dad carry his daughter on his shoulders, her arms out like airplane wings. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next, I said. Everything I built just fell apart. Claire didn't say anything for a second. Then, want to come over for dinner tonight? Nothing fancy. Just me, some spaghetti, and a little girl who thinks everyone over 20 is ancient. I looked at her. Your daughter. Her name's Sophie. She's 6. She might try to convince you she's 9, but don't fall for it. I blinked, caught off guard. Are you sure? Claire smiled. Bill, you've been showing up for everybody else your whole life. Maybe it's time someone showed up for you. Dinner was simple. Spaghetti, garlic bread, and grape juice and wine glasses for Sophie, who insisted we all toast before we ate. "Tischetti," she yelled, raising her cup. "Tischetti," we repeated, clinking glasses like we were sealing a pact. I don't know what I expected, maybe awkwardness, maybe nerves, but none of that showed up. Claire moved through her tiny kitchen with ease, wearing an old band t-shirt and humming to herself. Sophie told me about school and asked if I could make her a race car bed out of real car parts. After dinner, Claire and I sat on the couch while Sophie drew on the floor with a box of crayons. The TV played quietly in the background. "I should probably say this now," Claire said, her voice soft. "I'm not looking for something casual. I'm not good at games. I've had enough of them to last a lifetime." I looked at her, surprised by the clarity of it. "I'm not asking you to rush anything," she said quickly. I want to be honest about where I stand." I nodded slowly. "I don't want games either. But I'm still healing." She reached over and placed her hand on mine. "Then let's heal slow. Together." We didn't kiss. We didn't fall into bed. We just sat there, two tired people with scraped-up hearts, holding hands while a kid drew princesses and dragons on the carpet. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to earn someone's love. I just had to show up. Fate has a twisted sense of humor. It started with a resume. I was sitting in the back office at the store, sifting through a stack of new hire applications for a floor associate. We'd been short-staffed, and I'd asked HR to pass along anything worth looking at. I wasn't expecting anything interesting. Then I saw his name. Caleb Monroe. Age 28. Part-time bartender. Customer-focused with strong interpersonal skills. I nearly dropped the paper. The same Caleb Megan had mentioned in her email. The same smug guy I'd seen with his hand on her knee in the Civic that night. And now he wanted a job at my store. I stared at his application for a full minute. Long enough to remember that kiss. Long enough to feel that anger, raw and steady, pressing against my ribs. I could have just tossed the resume. Could have rejected it with a simple, not a good fit. But something inside me clicked into place. I didn't want him gone. I wanted him humiliated. We called him in for an interview the following week. I played it cool. Sat across from him in a collared shirt, expression blank. He didn't recognize me at first, just saw another manager. When he shook my hand, he grinned like he had any idea what was coming. I hired him, assigned him to a slow shift, gave him the most basic training. Let him relax. Get comfortable. Joke with the staff. Get a little sloppy. Then I started watching. 2 weeks in, I noticed him pocketing a Bluetooth speaker off the clearance shelf. Small, maybe $40. Easy to miss. He looked straight at the camera, then tucked it in his hoodie. I didn't say a word. Over the next 3 weeks, I caught him taking a phone charger, a pair of headphones, and a box of promotional gift cards. Always small stuff. Always just under the radar. But I had it all. Video clips. Logs. Witness statements from 2 staff members I trusted. One even caught him bragging in the break room. I built a folder. Nice and neat. Then I made a call. "Caleb, can you stop by the office for a second?" He walked in with that same smug confidence, chewing gum, hands in his pockets. I didn't speak right away. Just pushed the open folder across the table. He flipped it over. His face fell. "Is this?" I nodded. "We've been monitoring inventory discrepancies. Turns out you've been helping yourself." He swallowed hard. "It's not what it looks like." I leaned back, arms folded. "It's exactly what it looks like." We fired him on the spot. Filed a theft report. Store policy. Loss prevention had to do their job. We pressed charges. He walked out in handcuffs. I never said a word to Megan, but the next day I saw her waiting outside the store. Pacing. She looked thinner, tired, angry. When she saw me, she walked straight up and said, "You think you're clever?" "I think I'm patient," I said flatly. "Took you long enough to figure that out." "That was cruel," she hissed. "He's just a kid." "No," I said, stepping closer. "He's the guy you wrecked your marriage for. He deserves exactly what he got." Before she could spit out another excuse, Claire stepped out from the side door. "Megan, you should leave," she said calmly. "This isn't your store, and it's not your husband anymore." Megan looked stunned. Then she scoffed. "Well, enjoy your little replacement. He's great at running away." Claire stepped forward. "No, he's great at surviving people like you." I'd never seen her like that, fierce, calm, protective. And in that moment, I knew. I wasn't standing next to a rebound. I was standing next to someone who had my back. For real. It was a Wednesday when the call came. Just after 5, right as I was locking up the office. "Bill," my brother said, his voice low and careful. "It's Mom." My chest went tight. I already knew. She passed this morning. In her sleep. Everything went quiet in my head. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just sat there, keys in my hand, watching dust float in a sunbeam on the wall. Like if I sat still enough, time would reverse. The funeral was planned for the following Saturday. Small, just family. Megan texted me that night, the first time in weeks. "Let me know if the girls are coming. They'll need black dresses." She didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't ask how I was holding up. Just logistics. I picked the girls up myself that Saturday morning. Maddie and Ellie stood stiffly on the porch when I pulled up, both in black flats and cardigans, their hair pulled back neatly like they were posing for a yearbook photo. Neither of them smiled. Maddie got in the back seat, earbuds already in. Ellie climbed in without a word. The drive was quiet. Too quiet. At one red light, I cleared my throat. "You two okay?" Ellie shrugged. Maddie didn't even look up. They weren't mad. They were distant. Still poisoned by Megan's version of things. At the church, I walked them to the pew where my brother and his wife were seated. My dad gave me a hug, his hands shaking. He looked smaller, like the grief had carved him down. The service was simple. The pastor spoke gently about my mom's life, her fierce loyalty, her sense of humor, the way she made lasagna like it was a competitive sport. At the end, people stood to say a few words. I didn't. I couldn't. Afterward, I stood outside by the little man-made lake behind the chapel. I needed air. I needed to breathe. And that's when I felt it, a small hand slipping into mine. "Ellie." I looked down and saw her eyes brimming. "I miss Grandma," she said softly. I knelt, trying to keep my voice from cracking. "I miss her too." Maddie was a few feet behind, arms crossed, head down. "Why didn't you come get us sooner?" she said suddenly. "You just left." My heart broke a little more. "I didn't want you to see me like that," I said. I didn't know how to explain it yet. "You should have tried," she said, blinking hard. "We thought you just gave up." I looked at both of them, searching for the right words. "Your mom told you a version of things. I get that. But I never gave up on you. Not for a second." Maddie stepped forward, her eyes red. She didn't say anything, just hugged me. Ellie joined a moment later. And right there, by that lake, I felt something click back into place. Not fully, not fixed, but something. Later that night, Claire sat next to me on the edge of her couch while Sophie built Lego castles at our feet. She handed me a mug of tea without asking. "How was it?" she asked. "Hard," I said, "but maybe worth it." She nodded. "I'm proud of you." I stared at the floor. "I don't feel strong. You don't have to. You just have to show up." I leaned my head against her shoulder, and for the first time in days, I exhaled. Not everything was healed, but something had begun. The morning of the funeral, I stood in front of my closet for 10 minutes, staring at the same two black suits. Claire leaned against the doorway in a soft blue dress, coffee in one hand, her other holding mine from across the threshold. "You don't have to go alone," she said gently. "I know," I said, "but I probably should." She shook her head. That wasn't the question. I smiled, barely, and reached for her hand again. "Come with me." The chapel was quiet when we arrived. Early. The kind of hush that wraps around you, like the walls themselves are grieving. I saw my dad near the altar, standing stiff in his black suit, lips pressed tight. A couple aunts and cousins shuffled in after us, murmuring softly. Then Megan walked in. She was dressed perfectly, of course. Tasteful dress, dark heels, hairpin just so. And when she spotted us, her smile faltered. Claire didn't flinch. She held my hand a little tighter. The service began, simple and clean, hymns, readings, old stories. I didn't speak. I couldn't. But when the pastor invited family to light candles, I stood. Claire nudged me, gave me that look that said, "I'm right here," and I walked to the altar. And I lit 2 candles, one for my mother, one for closure. After the service, everyone gathered under the white tent outside for lunch. Folding chairs, sandwiches, lemonade. Aunts cried quietly behind sunglasses. My father clung to my elbow like I was the only thing keeping him upright. That's when Megan appeared beside me. "You're different," she said softly. "I am," I said. "I didn't think you'd let Claire come. She's here because she belongs here." Megan looked down at her hands. "I'm sorry." It wasn't dramatic. No tears. No explanations. Just that one sentence. "I don't hate you," I said. "But I can't love you anymore. Not after everything." She nodded slowly. "I know." She glanced over at the girls sitting with Claire, laughing quietly with Sophie over a paper plate of cookies. They look happy. They're getting there. I messed things up, didn't I? I didn't answer. She already knew. Later, under the tent, Claire reached for my hand as we sat with the girls. You okay? She asked. I think so, I said. First time in a while. Ellie leaned into my side and whispered, Mom said you'd ignore us if she brought you. But you didn't. I looked at her. I never will. That night, back at Claire's, the four of us sat on the couch, me, Claire, her daughter Sophie curled up like a cat, and my girls stretched out like they'd finally found space to breathe again. Maddie rested her head on my shoulder, quiet. Claire leaned in close and whispered, Do you feel it? What? The shift. The part where everything starts to settle. I nodded. Yeah, I do. I didn't feel angry. Or bitter. Not even numb. I felt like I could breathe again. After the girls went to bed, Claire and I sat outside on her back step, looking up at the sky. You lit 2 candles, she said. I only expected one. One was for Mom, I said. And the other? For everything I had to let go of. She reached over and took my hand again, fingers lacing between mine. We didn't talk after that. We just watched the stars settle into the dark, both of us quiet, both of us still. That night, I slept without waking once. Because the chapter was closed. And I didn't need to go back. Sunday mornings used to be the worst. That was when the silence in the house felt loudest. When I'd wake up expecting noise, waffles, cartoons blaring, and get nothing but a cold kitchen and a coffee pot I forgot to clean. Now, Sundays had Claire. And Sophie. And sometimes, my girls too. This one started like the new normal. I stood at the stove flipping pancakes while Claire cut strawberries at the counter. Sophie and Ellie were at the table drawing unicorns on the backs of placemats, and Maddie was curled up in the armchair with a blanket and her phone, humming along to whatever was playing in her earbuds. It was the kind of morning that felt borrowed, like life was giving me a do-over. Claire walked up behind me and slid her arms around my waist. I think we might have enough pancakes to feed a high school marching band. Good, I said. I'm raising 3 of them. After breakfast, we started clearing plates, and the girls sat me down on the couch like they were planning an intervention. Maddie spoke first. We've been talking. Ellie nodded, serious. Like, a lot. I raised an eyebrow. About what? About Claire, Maddie said. And Sophie. Claire was in the kitchen pretending not to listen, but I could see her freeze mid-rinse. We like them, Ellie said. I smiled. Good, because I kind of do too. No, we like them for real, Maddie added. And we just want to say, we're sorry. For what happened. They looked at each other, and then at me. We didn't know what Mom was saying wasn't true, Maddie said. I stamped. She made it sound like you were the one who left. That you didn't want us. But she lied, Ellie said. We figured it out. I couldn't say anything right away. My throat got too tight. I just reached for their hands and held them. You have no idea how much that means to hear, I finally said. And, Maddie continued, if you ever, wanted to marry Claire or whatever, we'd be okay with it. Claire looked up at that, mouth slightly open. Whoa, I laughed. Where'd that come from? You guys already act like a team, Ellie said, matter of fact. And she makes good sketty. Sophie poked her head around the corner. We should all be a family. Permanent. Claire walked over, drying her hands on a towel, trying to hide a smile. You all done matchmaking now? Maddie shrugged. Just saying. We're cool with it. Later that night, after the girls had gone home and Sophie was tucked in, Claire and I sat out on the porch swing, a blanket over our legs. They meant it, I said. That wasn't just kids saying stuff. I know, she said quietly. I never thought I'd feel this again, I admitted. The family thing. The safety. The future. Claire turned to me. Are you saying you see a future with me? I didn't hesitate. Yeah, I do. She leaned into my shoulder, her voice soft. Well then, maybe next Sunday, you make the pancakes, and I'll bring the ring pop for Sophie. We'll let her officiate. I laughed. Deal. It wasn't perfect. I still missed my mom. Megan still sent cold, clipped texts when it came to scheduling. But my girls were coming around. Sophie called me Bill Dad, as a joke. And Claire? Claire was steady. Open. Real. As the sun dipped behind the trees, the porch creaked beneath us, and I realized. I wasn't rebuilding my old life. I was building something better.